Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm joined by Travis McGhee, FuturesANIMal. How are you, my friend?
Fabulous, Joe. Yourself?
I'm doing okay, minus the commute. But
it's a little rough.
Oh my goodness, it's a little tough getting up here today. But welcome to the show, my friend. It's good to have you here. You know, when we see the snow fly, and when we get to this time of year, we start to think about the fact that we're getting to the end of trading for this year and starting to look at next year. We get all kinds of numbers in. We get, of course, Christmas numbers, which are a big, important part of our market, because obviously in America we love to spend. That's a big part of it.
Sure.
But when that happens, what should we be looking for? What are some of the signs here that we're looking at right now? I mean, we know, I heard that, of course, Black Friday was a little off, but that was, they say a lot of it was because Thursday, or Gray Thursday as some people called it, was a little, was much, much bigger this year.
Right.
And of course, Cyber Monday, they think was going to grow quite a bit. In fact, like by $5 billion, or $500 million. Right.
And from what I heard, Cyber Monday blew it out of the water.
Wow.
Yesterday, from what I've heard so far this morning. So, which is natural. I mean, I think that pretty much everyone expected to see that that movement from Black Friday to the virtual Cyber Monday, and every year we've seen that expansion.
Well, if you go out and do it, you want it to, because you realize going out to stores and fighting people over things is just not worthwhile.
Exactly.
So we see more and more people turning to shopping in their pajamas.
Right. But you're exactly right. It's that time of the year, and for investors, this is the time of the year that typically you sit down, take a look at your portfolio, see what you have, and see what sort of adjustments you need to make heading into 2014. And we've had a heck of a run this year. I mean, if you look at the S&P 500, we're up, right around 26%. It looks like the market's going to open lower today, so we might give up a little bit of that. But I mean, that's the best run we've seen in the broader market since the late 90s.
Pretty impressive.
It is pretty impressive. And will that continue into 2014? I don't know. Could it? I mean, it absolutely could. I highly doubt it.
Me too.
So what does that mean for the investor? Well, again, and as we've talked about, for the younger folks out there in their 30s, 20s, and even 40s in some cases, with their 401k, it really doesn't mean all that much at all. I mean, you should stick to your plan, stay allocated the way you're allocated, and keep chugging along. But, certainly for the older generation, again, we are in a very, I almost want to say weird environment right now, to where you have to really search for yield. And by yield, I mean, returns that you're going to see over the course of a year on your money. So, historically, some of the older generation has gone towards some of the safer investments, like CDs and savings accounts and so on and so forth.
We're not seeing a huge return on those.
But you're seeing next to nothing. In
savings accounts used to be that good a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of crazy.
In actuality, it's a net negative return if you think about inflation and everything. I mean, it's not good. So a lot of folks have just been piling into the stock market looking for those returns, and they've seen it this year, but is that going to continue into next year? I don't know. So again, this is a time for folks to sit down, look at your portfolio, see how everything's allocated, and get rid of some of the stuff in your portfolio that hasn't worked out so well.
Yeah,
and just
complete underperformers need to go.
And just start from a clean slate heading into 2014.
When we talk about the things that we should be looking at, when we're trying to find the ones that don't perform, obviously anything that's that's not bringing us anything back at all goes, right?
Yeah.
Typically, but are there percentages that, as you have a nice prospectus of how things are, and you have your your own portfolio balanced out with a lot of different things, are things that perform under 6%, are they worth hanging on to just to keep it balanced, or is there a level that you start dumping things that are
that's a great question. It's very circumstantial. It depends on the person, and you would have to sit down with an individual person and see what their portfolio looks like. One thing that I use, just kind of as a rule of thumb for myself, if I go in and look at my portfolio, and it's an old adage that Warren Buffett used to use, and still does say quite often, is if you're looking at your portfolio and you see something and you're not absolutely in love with it, you shouldn't own it. It shouldn't be a part of your portfolio. And you know, that's worked well for myself in certain stocks and certain investments that that I've made. But if you've got something, you know, again, I can't really slap a percentage and say, well, if this is only earning 3% and this is down 6% and this is up 8%, this is what you should be
Because it does
cutting.
depend on the person.
But if you go into something and it's a stock that you just had a lot of high hopes for and it hasn't worked out over the course of a year, over the course of 2 years, and you're just not seeing the returns, sometimes you just have to cut your losses or whatever small winnings or earnings you have and move on to the next investment. And just kind of separate yourself from the investment that didn't necessarily work out as you planned. There's nothing wrong with that. We all make investments and have a lot of hype and a lot of hope about something, and it's hard as humans, it's human nature to fall in love with that investment. But one thing I try to do when I look at especially stocks is it's just letters and numbers. That company, you don't get a Christmas card from that company. They don't call you on your birthday. They don't tuck you in at night. It's just letters and numbers. So, you know, I always tell folks, don't fall in love with a stock because it's not going to love you back.
Right.
You know, if it's not working out how you necessarily thought it was going to work out, sometimes it's best just to move on.
Well, lastly, I guess kind of the part of this that we kind of come back to often, it seems you do, to some degree, believe, though, that it is a little bit gut, too, right?
Sure.
You've said this before, I think, that you have a certain amount of time where if something doesn't earn what you expected it to, then, you know, you've got to trust your gut. You expected it to, it didn't, now it's time to get rid of it. So having a little bit of a gut reaction to things is not a bad idea. It's
not a bad idea. There's a difference between having a gut reaction and making irrational decisions on a whim.
Right.
And, you know, you hear something on the news and it scares you, and then you go and adjust your entire portfolio based off of what you heard.
That's a bad idea.
There's a difference in sitting down at year end, analyzing and assessing your portfolio and how it's performed over the course of a year or 2 years, and finding some of those underperformers and saying, you know what, this just didn't work out as planned. I don't see a lot of hope for it in the future. You know what, I'm going to start moving into some alternative areas. And again, that's something that a lot of the older folks are going to look into coming into 2014 are some of these alternative areas to find yield. Because it might be difficult to find it next year in the stock market. Certainly going to be difficult to find it in the fixed income market. So
some of your favorite instruments going into next year?
Some of my favorite, again, you know, I look at a lot of the alternative investments. Yeah. So I'm still looking at the futures market and playing some of the commodities. You know, some of the commodities have really been beaten up over the especially precious metals.
We expect some growth in some of them next year.
So there might be some opportunities there. And then again, I'm a big fan of the options market and generating income. So that's certainly an area that myself and our clients are going to be partaking in. So.
Well, certainly this brings the last point, which is get in, figure stuff out, sit down with an expert, find out what is going to fit for next year, you know, start to make a plan. And that's, of course, a big part of what you guys do. And if somebody wants to do that, how do they go about it?
Yeah, just go to FuturesANIMal.com. You can check us out there. You can give us a call. Phone number's right there on the page. And again, I think you bring up a good point. It's just like you sit down and make New Year's resolutions for your health and so on and so forth. Do it for your financial well-being as well. And set some goals and set a plan.
All right. Travis McGhee, FuturesANIMal.
All right, Joe.
As always, I appreciate it. It's good information.
Yeah.
And I'm wishing for you a very successful year as well. I know we're certainly all hoping for that. It's, if things continue on this trend, should be pretty terrific. All right. We will be back with Splore right after these messages right here on Park City Television's Mountain Morning Show.